Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
It's Friday, July 20th. Is that right? Oh, good. I got that right. July 20th, and our topic today is all about chemical dependence. So I think this is going to be
In the most positive way.
Yeah, chemically dependent. Not chemical dependence, chemically dependent. That's funny. I already made a mistake and we're only 30 seconds in. So when we were writing this and talking about it, we've always talked about this topic when we're in PSC Net or Salon Inc. on really the complexion of what this means to our businesses now. You know, I think back to when I first started receiving services in a salon, it was all perming.
Mm-hmm.
And how long did a perm last? I could get 6 months out of it.
Yeah, but mostly 3 months.
Well, I didn't. I got 6 months out of it. And so anyway, you're talking about 2-3 times a year, right? Chemically dependent now, a color service, especially for my age group, and we're going to talk about that in a moment. Chemically dependent
in your case, what you're saying is chemically dependent for someone your age is great coverage.
Yes, it's great coverage. Which there's a lot of
But
people
there's a lot more.
Well, we're going to talk
There's
about
a lot more
that.
color business.
Yes, but you've got different levels of chemically dependent. You've got mine, who's 18 times a year. You've got other people that might be 4 or 5 times a year. But you need to know what your formula is for your guest base. That's what we're going to be talking about today, because there's such a great opportunity to capitalize on this if you understand it. Okay. So here's the key numbers we look at all the time, or should be looking at, and it should be our conversation. How much traffic are we having in the salon on a day-to-day basis? What is our highest traffic day? Not dollar day, traffic day. Looking at what week.
And traffic being guest count. What's our highest guest count day?
And what is our guest count for the week? What do we bank on mentally as an owner? Then we're looking at the total dollars the salon is generating, and that total dollar per guest, that total dollars divided by the traffic gives you a total dollar per guest average ticket, the service portion, the take-home dollars, and of course the reschedule rate. Now, these are ones we've been talking about a long time.
And because reschedule can mean different things across the country, what we're talking about is an advanced reservation. Are they setting up a future reservation today before they leave the salon?
And are we expecting that guest to come back?
Sure.
And is it on our schedule so we know it's locked in? What we want to start talking about is looking at, let's add these two numbers into our daily conversation. Overall and per employee, it's that chemical percentage that we are of the dollar on a daily basis and the chemical percentage of our traffic. I mean, I think this really came to light for me when we started our relationship with the schools, because that was a key number they want to look at every day. Talk about that for a moment.
It's something that's on our dashboard in Millennium, and it's something that we look at. We want our chemical business to be anywhere from 30 to
or higher, right?
30 to 50% or more. And of course, that's the key to the clinic classroom experience, is how much, you know, the formulating and the using of the chemicals, the color, the lightener, all of those things really helps to build great hairdressers. In addition to the the haircut experience that happens over and over and over again. So it really is an important thing to look at. It's one thing just to manage guest count, and we do, but it's also very, very important to look at what's going on with our chemical business, and are we meeting that? And so I think it's a great metric. It's something to look at. It's something to consider. You'll find your norm. I was looking at some information from an industry company called Klein. They provide all the manufacturers and some of the distributors with data, and they get real data from salons. And I saw something yesterday where they broke down the pie of the salon business as to what was haircuts, what was color, what was perming, what was all of the different categories. And chemicals certainly is the lion's share.
Well, you know what I'm thinking about is when you look at that, let's say you have a career path in place. I am certain, and I kind of put money on this, I bet our top level people have a higher percentage of chemical than our rising stars or our entry level. I think primarily they're probably doing cutting and grooming, right? And as you see that start to elevate, I mean, there's so many ways to look at this, because the amount of services that we want a guest to be locked into. I understand at the front level, they might be getting more haircuts than color. My level, my age group, is getting more color than they are haircuts.
Mm-hmm.
So I want to talk about that in the future, but of this program. But when you look at this, it's something that you need to know. It could be a hiding place for someone who's not comfortable in color. They could be not talking about color enough because you're looking at their percentage, and maybe they're 8% color in their traffic and 10% in their dollar, and you might go, wow, I didn't even realize that because I'm looking at this percentage overall for that salon. But really you can look at and help them understand, which the next slide is, what's our acceptable ranges? And our acceptable ranges for traffic coming into that chair, dollar per guest, total service, take home, a rescheduling percentage, and now our chemical traffic percentage, as well as our chemical percentage of dollar. And when you have acceptable ranges, it helps them understand maybe why you're coaching the way you are. It's, you know, I think back to the restaurant industry when someone was at $11 per ticket and someone was at $20, and our acceptable range was $18.50. That $11 person had to step up and really take notice on what things they needed to do because they weren't in the acceptable range. That's why acceptable ranges really help you gear your coaching and position the people that need to come in. For example, many times we hold trainings for everyone versus the people that aren't in acceptable ranges, right? What are you looking at?
I just, I wanted to pull up the report that I was mentioning. And this is based on third quarter 2017. Haircuts made up 22.9% of the total salon revenue, and hair coloring made up 27.7%. So it is the bigger segment. There is another category that they call combination hair services, which could be cut and color. So you've got to add another 15% into that
chemical percentage.
Into that chemical percentage for sure. But things that have gotten a lot of attention that you look at, whether it be styling, treatments, texturizing, and whatnot, really together, those only make up about 9%. So, you know, and I don't think we're surprising anybody with this content today.
No.
Because pretty much everybody knows how important chemical services are in the salon today.
Right.
But it's how do we make our offerings, how do we massage that business to be more intentional and to receive intentional growth. And I just want to point out what took place over the last 2 years with balayage and ombre. Mm-hmm. And you know, the point is that we took a traditional retouch, which happened at a much higher frequency, and those two services, which our guests were excited about and hairdressers were excited about, cut down on the frequency, the need for the frequency of visit. And that was, you know, guests were happy about that. But what we didn't anticipate is
what it would do with the revenue.
What's it going to do to the revenue? Because if guests aren't in the business, they're not taking advantage of all of the things the business has to offer, which includes take-home products and the likes. So it hurt occupancy. Good thing, created revenue, but it hurt occupancy.
Well, you know what we also could have done during that time is it allowed us to take on more guests, which should there have been a room for them, right?
Oh, sure.
So,
well, and then that's the thing. If you're going to cut down on frequency, then there's a need to increase guest count.
Yeah, someone could say, wow, I'm making less money. Well, yeah, you converted people to balayage, right? Mm-hmm. So, excuse me, the why on this, right? Could you see if someone would bring me a Diet Coke, please? I'm thinking the why on this is because what is the cause and effect of our decision making? When you look at this and realize, I think I'm jumping the gun a little bit because I'm excited about where we're going with the next slides, but the why why is still, you have to know. You can't influence what you don't know. Numbers are in place to influence behavior. And when we look at chemical services and to realize, even in that, Steve can look at it and get it, but if an owner or a leader is not managing off these numbers on a daily basis, it doesn't matter if you can get to it, it matters if you know it. And that's what we're trying to influence here. So many times when we're teaching this, people get on their phones and start looking versus managing off of it. It was amazing to me. One of my favorite college football teams, being from Ohio, was Ohio State. And Joe Parton, who's on staff, started reading Urban Meyer's new book that he wrote. And I said, Steve, that would make a great birthday present for me. And yesterday, Joe brought me the book. Well, it was on my desk, and I was putting the finishing touches to this, and I just kept looking back at it and thinking, I'll just sneak a few minutes. The amazing thing that he talks about is that when you don't know, like we've always said, you can't respond to something you don't know. You have to be able to witness it, understand it, figure out the solutions to go in and tackle it. So if your color percentage isn't where it needs to be, or your dollar per guest isn't where it needs to be, it's probably, thank you, it's probably lying in this chemical area. I would venture to say, and most people, even when we have classes here, I'm amazed at the amount of people that'll say when we're doing color theory and they've been behind the chair for 2 or 3 years, I finally understand. So we put people on the floor and they're nodding at us, but they don't get it, right? So the wise is this category can be a hiding place if we're not careful.
Well, it can be a hiding place. It's also, to me, it's the light at the end of the tunnel, which is think about the progression of a hairdresser when they just complete our training program and we release them to the floor. Certainly the natural overflow that takes place in the salon is going to be on the cutting and styling. And so their real race is how do they increase their guest count? They're going from 0 guest count to something each week, whether it be first it's 10 guests a week, then it's 20, then it's 30, then it's 40, and so on. And so that's the build, that's the beginning. After that, the kind of carrot that we hold out as leaders is that we want to teach them to work smarter, not necessarily harder. And what that means in the salon industry is how do we do more volume? How do we grow our volume without seeing more guests? We want to do more services per guest, which is another thing that we've always talked about. Well, those other services, by and large, based on the statistics that are out there, it's going to be a color service.
Well, I think that this is so obvious in the spa category because the amount of times that we sit down and talk about the esthetician, just the esthetician, sometimes 80% of what they do is waxing. And pardon me?
I'm starting to whisper.
I'm starting to whisper? I've never been accused of that. But sometimes we'll look at an esthetician and would you get frustrated if you did all that schooling and all you're doing is waxing all day? That sometimes happens here. If we're not careful, we can allow this to be a cutting department only or styling. They could just stop doing those extra services that need extra knowledge and purposeful delivery of consultation. We're going to talk about that too. Good?
Good.
Okay. So the guest profile, look at mine. All right, please, I can't stand this. I'm color every 3 weeks, 18 times a year. Okay, so I'm going to see you in your salon 18 times a year. What is the responsibility of the salon to accommodate this frequency? And the biggest thing when you've got a customer like me, you got to try to create the standing appointment. I mean, back in the days when everyone was going to the salon weekly, sometimes twice a week, Wednesdays and Saturdays, they have their hair done, right? They understood frequency better than we understand frequency today, right?
Yeah, for sure. Because they had to.
Well,
their goal was to go from 0 to about
40 customers, right?
30 to 40 customers that they saw weekly.
Yes.
So they knew it was a more finite, I'm either hitting the target or I'm not. And it would take them sometimes years.
Just to create that, because of, I better be enjoyable to be around, it better be a relationship that works, I'm going to spend an hour with this person twice a week, blah, blah, blah. What is the responsibility of the salon to accommodate this frequency now? Just like Steve knew immediately, they're trying to go from 30 to 40 customers a week. Now we have to realize, because of that, you need to look at what's the formula for this, right? What's the formula? How many Terry Cowens do I need? How many people that get color 6 times a year do I need? How many customers? You start thinking about it and make it a game out of it. I mean, if you had 18, if you look at my profile of getting a haircut every 6 weeks and color every 3, 100 of me would be $144,000 a year. At about just 100 of me. Now, I don't think that's a realistic number, but it could be.
Could be.
Right? So, but the point is you need to look at your guest base and see how many times should this person come in, how many times should this person come in, and do I have the responsibility to understand? Because if there's no room for Terry Cowan 18 times a year, then I can't stay. I can't go without color. I've said that many times in other videos too. How do you accommodate this kind of frequency for chemical dependence?
Well, and here's another thing. How enthusiastic and excited are we about color and about welcoming those guests within that frequency? You know, I would venture to say that Starbucks is probably more excited about welcoming you into the drive-through line
See at the window
every day
See at the window.
than we are. And, you know, people spend $5 a day or $10 maybe a day through a drive-through, and they're happy and excited and have something to say, and you know that you've got your little club and your freebies and all this kind of stuff that goes along with that status. You have a status. You become recognizable in that business.
Couldn't I become recognizable as
should be.
As an 18?
That's the point.
That's
it
right.
Absolutely should be. So there's been a lot of talk over the years, and I know the software companies have all of this capability in order to have guest loyalty programs
Or memberships.
But I think more than guest loyalty, we need guest celebration. We need status for those clients that are coming in that frequently in the business. Whether, I mean, I don't know whether it's a separate phone line that they can call in, whether it's a priority something or other in the business when they're in there. But there's work that can be done in this area to recognize those color guests, that frequency of visit, those people who are most often in our business. How do we recognize them? And so that'd be a challenge that we would throw out there with this. And there's a book that I am about my 3rd time through the book right now, and it's called Building a Story Brand. And I think it's by Donald Miller, and it really does a great job. That I think if those of you I know we're not on social media today, but certainly chemical dependency, our color business, what's most photographed on Instagram?
Color.
It's color, and so it does have a social media feel to it as well. I would really suggest this book. It's available on Audible. It's available through Amazon. Building a Story Brand, Donald Miller. I think you'd really enjoy, and you'd also see then that the point that was just made. How do we build that kind of status and loyalty with those guests? They are loyal because they're coming in that frequently, but do we celebrate them? And how could we?
Well, you know, I think that when you look at, what was I thinking here? Oh, when you look at this category, and we've got salons, and I shout out to Vicki and Tracy at the gallery in Springfield, Illinois. When you look at what they're doing with their program right now, they're really breaking down labor and design, and labor services are being done by the apprentices or people that are building professional competence. God, I'm sorry, little Just
you
fill in the
go
words as we
far,
go.
then I'll
They're
finish.
building professional confidence. So in their salon, what's happening for touch-ups like me, unless I'm getting absolute design work or dimensional color or something, my cover-up of unpigmented hair every 3 weeks would be done by the apprentice program, building confidence, learning pace, learning speed, so on and so forth. And who's still paid for it is the hairdresser that I go to. And what that's allowing them to do is some people think touch-up, it's become a labor versus a design service, touch-up work.
Mm-hmm.
And as a result of it, maybe it's not celebrated enough in the salon, just touching up gray coverage. However, I can tell you as a woman that has to get it, I feel like $1 million after I get it. I hate getting it, but I feel great that it's done. I mean, the last thing I want him to say to me is, hey, man, you really need color. And because every time I turn around, it's necessary. But how is it celebrated in the salon? How is that a good deal? And what they've done is they've taken a mundane service that doesn't create a lot of design effort, mental creativity, and turned it into a production service, which is really good.
But still with the creative and the design oversight.
Oh, absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
Whether it's we're going to go a little darker, we're going to go a little lighter, we're going to put some shine through on the ends, we're going to rinse with this toner. Those things are still done, but they've allowed more guests to be seen because this guest doesn't have to go right to the main designer for a labor service. Now, they deem labor as treatments, wash house experience is labor, some styling as labor, but design work is all grooming and cutting and color creativity. Good? Did we cover that enough?
I think so.
Okay. So chemical presence. What does it look like in the salon? What is your chemical presence? You know, I think that I had a conversation with a salon yesterday that said, you know what we realize that we do is we put out a new product, we find room on the shelf versus celebrating it in the salon. A new product should never just come out and be put somewhere. It should become a new focal area in the salon, even if it's there for 30 days. This is a new product. This is what it looks like. This is what's standing out. Promotions should be the same way. Same holds true for chemical presence. What does it look like in the salon? Just having a color bar says a whole lot. I mean, think about where we've come.
Mm-hmm.
It used to be hidden. So now we've got chemical presence with a color bar. But your chemical presence has to bring the salon in. How do salons visually celebrate your menu? And I was going through this and thinking about the salon, the store we went into. It was a wine place. I think we were in Arizona. And they decided to create things out of the crates that the wine came in, and they made it a part of the restaurant. And I took a picture of it. Do you remember? And
I was in Houston. Yeah.
All right. This is how they've taken wine that could be hidden. At one time years ago, wine was hidden. And then you even look at what Cooper's Hawk has done. But they've taken something that was hidden years ago and brought it to the forefront. And then they create displays. When's the last time we created a color display in our salon versus just having a color bar? How do you visually celebrate the categories in your menu? And you've always said, and I think that I come in here. Oh, you think about how people invite people in. I'm going to go here and hopefully. I was thinking about what could we do. You remember, we were part of the generation when McDonald's came out. And I can remember when they would start putting signs out, 100,000 hamburgers sold, 1 million hamburgers sold, right? What could we do about colorful solutions? We have 70% of our customers enjoying color, 100% of our staff wears color. It could be colorful solutions and figuring out how we do it. You could say.
It could be fun facts.
Absolutely.
Those are fun facts.
It could be, you could do a contest on what's her natural hair color. You know, we don't know from our staff standpoint.
Careful.
I don't know what Chrissy's natural color is. So when you think about what could we do to create conversation about color, because some people still think color means not natural. Right? because of what they see out there. I mean, you've got the crazies that can pull it off and look outstanding. Me with pink hair, I don't think I could pull that off. But me as a brunette, this is artificial brunette, but it's my natural color. What are you looking at?
Looking at your color.
Get out of here. Okay. So, example. I want to go into this because I kind of love this. How many people order dessert in a restaurant because the server asked, did anyone leave room for dessert? It's a very low percentage. And I think when I was in the restaurant industry, it was less than 10%. It could have been even 5%. What moves dessert in a restaurant is seeing something on another guest table, like, what is that, right? We've done it. Or seeing the tempting dessert tray. It's the visual presentation of dessert that gets your attention. So everyone knows this is to be true. Every restaurant knows this is to be true. How many still do not do it the right way? Many.
Majority.
Most, because they're too lazy and they're more important than the system of trying to position dessert. Right?
Yeah.
Okay. So they all know it, but it's a choice. And then they complain about the fact that they don't have dessert sales, or they're throwing desserts out because they're not staying fresh. Well, obviously. Okay. Because their number one thing they talk about is the entree. Okay. So now let's go. What can we learn from this example? There's a lot of things you have maintained for a long time. Why don't we have people that have mannequins set up with before and after, right? We could have with highlights, this natural look, different things that the customer can see. What I'm irritated, can you imagine going to a restaurant and someone bringing in to this restaurant a picture of a tiramisu? Do you have this? I'd like this today, right? We have our customers bringing in their own dessert tray.
Or more importantly, I mean, think about the way that we use a color chart in the salon. That would be like somebody having a little dollop of cheesecake.
Right, this big.
Yeah, this big on a plate showing, would you like the cheesecake?
Would you like the cheesecake?
For dinner. I mean, it's just crazy some of the stuff that we do and we don't even realize it. We do it that way because it's always been done that way.
So Steve said one time he would take a mannequin head and start from the front and do the colors all around to identify levels, right?
Yeah.
That'd be the
You'd
first
have
thing
one
you
that
do.
would be identifying levels and the other would be identifying tones.
Yes, and so now you've got this beautiful visual, not a dollop.
And then it would be just a matter of pulling the hair back, pulling that top layer back,
And putting that in.
exposing what's underneath that, I think would be very powerful.
So what can we learn from this example is the fact that visual celebrations, visual conversations. I mean, I know the amount of times we've had dessert because of what's on another table. Shame on that restaurant that we had to say, what's going on over there? Well, that's the chocolate lava explosion. Yeah, well, there's an explosion coming right here. But the server didn't do their job. The restaurant didn't do their job. The guests at another table did their job. And sometimes we're letting people who get balayage, what do you have on your hair? They're coming, my friend got this. So it's another table that's selling our service.
And that's always going to be the way when it comes to hair.
But it can't be the way.
It can't be the way, and it can't take the place of us celebrating what it is. If the example of level and tone on mannequins, on doll heads at your station is too daunting a task,
how can it be?
It shouldn't be, but if it is, I get it. But at least have a mannequin head or a doll head at your station, excuse me, with the shades and tones you're attracted to as a designer, as a hairdresser. And that's seasonal, and that comes and goes. You get this new, like right now, I think, again, what the statistics have shown, and to me it's almost a little Captain Obvious, is that right now the new thing in color are all the silver shades, all the metals and silver. And guess what? So if that's big, what do you have at your station that shows that this is what you're doing right now, or this is trend? How do you show the trends in color? And I think we need to do that. And in the process, it shows our enthusiasm, our excitement, our commitment to staying on the cutting edge of fashion and hair, and it lets our guests know they're in great hands here in our salon.
Well, I think there's a difference. I was watching something, and I don't recall now what it was, but there's a difference between trend and fad. Trend is something that's going to have some legs and probably have some time over it, and maybe even will turn into a classic at some point. A fad is quick in, quick out. So when we talk about trends and fads in color, we could say, this is a fad, this is a trend. So you're going to get a lot of use out of this. But once again, it's all in your heads versus being able to create something out there that the customer can understand and get involved with. And every restaurant knows that you don't sell desserts with that question, yet they do it anyway. Every salon knows, and we're saying it again today, if you don't talk about or figure out creative ways to be positioning color in your salon, the customer won't lean in and jump in and play with you.
Mm-hmm.
That's the big deal here. So here's the part on this. You know, coaches focus on the skills and the playbook. Team focus on the effort and energy, no excuses. If we're going to talk about every consultation, even if they don't want color, we'll talk about color, always. And our playbook has to be about how are we positioning color. I think about Van Council again. You can't work there unless you present the menu of your, come on.
Your portfolio?
Your portfolio. And your presentation has to be, in your consultation, has to include a color recommendation, the cutting, all the other things that go along with it.
Mm-hmm.
No excuses. We still have people that cut corners on the consultation or don't talk about color or don't give professional recommendation. And this is a really big deal to the customer who doesn't know what you know. And when I used to say to people, I feel bad saying this to you, but I would take the dessert tray and say, I didn't see this at that table. Go do it right now. And if I have to do it next to you until it becomes a habit, I'll do it. And what it would mean to our business. And then we started doing appetizers, people walking around, giving visual presentations on things. We had sushi last night at a place, and I couldn't wait to see if that was our food coming out. I was trying to guess if that was us. There were 5 of us there. We had 3 kids and Steve and I. And we were looking at the 6 people back there, the chefs preparing the sushi, and the place was just crazy busy. And I can tell you that the food was good, but the wait was long and painful. And never once did they come to the table and say, we're really busy tonight, this is going to take about 14 more minutes or whatever. They left us to come to our own conclusion. And someone in that place should say, if this is getting long, we need to do this.
Mm-hmm.
No one knew how to respond to getting hit that hard with traffic. We don't know how to respond sometimes on the needs of our customer.
And part of that is we become very comfortable in our own surroundings.
Absolutely.
Instead of keying off, the guests will tell us. They'll tell us, not non-verbally. They'll tell us by the look on their face. I mean, those of you that have been in this a long time, you can walk through your salon and know who's having a ball
and who's going. This is painful.
Yeah. So that's just another thing to keep an eye on.
So let's talk about this. And this color needs to look good beyond today's appointment. So would I have mannequin heads with color that wasn't taken care of between services? Would I show an example of fadage? Would I show what a great silver shampoo will do to hair? Let's talk about that. Because if you have a mannequin head, like I know I use color craft, right?
Mm-hmm.
If I don't use it, it starts to get very washed out. Would I have mannequin heads showing the difference? Sure I would, because if you don't know, it's like watching a child grow. You don't know your hair is fading. You have to give them visuals. If you don't use the right product, this is what your color can do. It's an automatic. So talk about that.
Well, it's a responsibility.
Oh.
That's the biggest thing that I see. when you're talking about maintaining chemical services, color, lightener, things of that nature, that's a service in the salon where your guest is really paying you not only for your time, but for your knowledge. And what they are paying for is the way that they look when they leave. And we know at that moment, at the moment that guest leaves the salon, their color will begin to fade, regardless of how great the color brands are today. The tone and the depth of color it's going to change. It changes because
look at our house. We have peroxide in our.
Yeah, we have a peroxide system because we're on a well.
And as a result of that.
So when you look at it, it's a matter of there has to be something that counteracts this fading that takes place, and that allows their color to maintain the depth and the shine and the condition over time. So again,
could you do 1 week of shampoos without anything, 2 weeks? You could do anything to show a visual. Could you do a color area for chemically dependent people, take home area? It's on a stand and say, this is what color chemically dependent customers need to use. You know, when I walk up to the Chanel counter, or let's say Bobbi Brown or whatever, and there's 17 million different foundations, I stand there and go, okay, which one should I be using? And then they start the questions. Are you normal, dry? I know I want anti-aging. I know I don't want too matte of a look now at my age. I've got to have a tinted moisturizer involved. That's the professional's job to guide me. I'm not there to stand by myself and make that decision. And shame on her if she doesn't lean in and tell me what to do. I'm strong enough to say, help me. There's a lot of customers that aren't strong enough to say that. So you have to be able to help them knowing that they don't have the confidence. All right, so how do we do this? So we're going to talk about take-home responsibility. We're going to talk about treatment. We can do the example on fadage on a mannequin to prove our point. And some of you might say, I don't have room for this. Make room. There's areas where you can create things to help the customer understand what they need to do.
Mm-hmm.
Right? I think that's huge. So how do we, I think about every line that we represent, there's some kind of area that's about color. There's some kind of area that's about, let's talk about Cheryl and Silver Shampoo. That was amazing the other day.
Yeah, the last time Terry's best friend was here, she took a bottle of the.
Well, first of all, she looked, her hair was very brassy. She's a blonde.
Mm-hmm.
And we
took a bottle of the Milkshake Silver Shine shampoo, and also the leave-in treatment mousse. And the funny part was, we saw her the next day, and it looked like she had fresh color.
Yeah,
I mean, her color looked, even her her friend from high school. Even her friend from high school that she's dating right now,
yes,
noticed that her hair was different.
But you know what? Shame on that salon. Shame on them. Why are we doing that? That's not our job. Why isn't someone in the salon saying, wow, that color is way too brassy. You need this. You tend to get brassy. This is what needs to go home to have that color look good. I can tell you because of what I do, my ends look pretty good between visits because of the business I'm in. But if I didn't do anything in between, like I didn't have any color craft home, my hands got really dry and faded very quickly. It's our job to help them look good all the time. And we're not doing that. And that $1 per guest, there's such a responsibility. This is like not presenting the dessert tray to me. And create the areas, create the conversation, no excuses. Gosh darn it.
There you go.
Okay. So now we look at the dailies. You know, I was watching an interview and they were talking about their dailies that they do when they're making a movie. They film and then they all watch the dailies to see if the dailies good enough. Did we get enough different kind of angles? What do the dailies look like? Is a recap of the footage of the day? You know, I look at our dailies. What are our dailies? Did we look good? Does anything need to be shot? Were things from a different angle? Are we taking pictures of every customer now at the end of our visit so we can see that? I go in to get some Botox. They take a picture of before the Botox. They take a picture after the Botox. They make me do the squint, and they take everything, every visit. I have to do all those squeeze and smile and show the lips and show the eyes, and that's all on there. So then they can see it. They want to make sure that they're injecting in the right places. Okay, I'm not ashamed to say that. I'm at an age where I need a lot of help. So what are we doing? Are we doing befores and afters? Are we doing it before when they sit down in the chair, and after so they can see the difference in that color? Look how good this looks. Are we doing the minimum and expecting a maximum result? What's a recap of our time look? I don't see enough of tools being used for the customer to be involved. And that's really, especially with technology, we take pictures of everything. Why aren't we doing that with our customers?
Well, and the interesting part is not only should we be taking pictures, I think that we need to, that's the way we can use social in a different way. I think it's important that we take pictures with their devices.
Yeah, let
take
me
a picture
see.
with their phone, have them put it on their social media and tag the salon, and then give them some reward for that. And it immediately takes your salon out to all of the others. If you're posting it, you're basically you're posting it to your own friend base. You want to get beyond that if at all possible.
Well, and also for you to take a picture and say, I'm going to take a picture when you get back. Let's see what kind of fadage we had. I'm going to show you the difference between last visit when you were here 3 weeks ago or 6 weeks ago and today. This is why you have to have color craft, or this is why you have to have a silver shampoo, or this is why we need to be doing this.
Mm-hmm.
And this is why we need a treatment. This is why I recommend it. Look at the condition of the hair here. Look at the condition of the hair here.
Yeah, and something else has come to mind while we've been talking today, and it's that I've noticed over the years, there's a way that great hairdressers do everything. But one of the things that's different and noticeable from one to the next is the way you take product and put it in the hair. And yet I don't know that there's ever really been a class on that. And I don't know of a salon that's ever really taught people. We just think everyone knows. But I noticed the difference in a great men's hair cutter, the way that they take the product, the way that they put it through the hair is completely different than most people who touch the hair, putting product in for men.
Steve,
and with women, it's the same thing.
It's no different than you find a great server that knows how to really romance opening a bottle of wine,
Mm-hmm.
and someone else that just opens it, right? But they don't think that there has to be any finesse to it. It's the same thing. It's it's the showmanship.
It is, but it also, the subtle that says you're worth it, you're worth this extra time.
Absolutely.
It's part of the fussing over someone, but it's also part of being the professional. There's people at home are just going to take product and slap it in their hair, but in the salon experience, it should be celebrated. It should be different. And again, I notice the people that are great in this business naturally do it, but you can be one chair away from them, and it's not a technique that's available in the salon. People don't practice it, they don't know it, maybe they don't even notice it sometimes because they're just in the salon doing hair and doing what they've always done.
Oh, I think that's a great point. Skillful hands isn't just using shears and a blow dryer and a brush. Skillful hands is also how you play and romance the product.
Mm-hmm.
Whether it's the scent. Oh, I love this scent. This is one of my favorites to use just because I get to enjoy it too. And then also how great my hands feel after this product. It is so moisturizing. But there's so many things you can say.
It's every little detail.
Everything.
And I'm not going to call out the person, but there's someone that used to cut your hair that you would say, you're a rough hairdresser. And there are some that are just, their touch isn't as light. It's not, they're not paying attention to tender scalps or whatnot when they're brushing or combing the hair or even sectioning. And yet, you couldn't find a class on that anywhere in our business.
No, what is your touch like? Just your touch.
Yeah, the way you touch the
What
guest,
do you
the way you touch
part-
the hair, the parting, the blow drying, the brush, the round brush usage. How much are we really working on that?
I had one
since we
person
left
that
school?
did shampoos for me and I was just a sharp pinky. So every time she shampooed me, she'd drag that. And I thought, oh, here it comes. She must have had just a sharp nail that
Right,
just
it was catching your hair.
always would catch my scalp and my hair. And I think, ooh, hurry up. Everything else was good, but that one finger I wanted to cut off. So where we at, Brian? What time are we on? Because I want to talk about, oh, good. So reading the book yesterday of Urban Meyer, he was talking a lot about leadership and he talked about 10-80-10. And he talked about it a lot. He said 10% of your staff, he said 10% of my players, 10% of them, I really don't have to spend much time with them because they get it. They absolutely get it. But what I do insist is that 10% is responsible to go back and get some of the 80% and move them up to 10%. They've got to go back and get them. They've got to help me go get them. And even Tim Tebow that played for him at Florida, every day, Tim Tebow would come in because he was such a leader and say, Coach, I've got to go get back, go get an 80 and make him a 10. And that was a job. In our salon sometimes, our 10 wants nothing to do with anybody else, that top 10. They want to sit in the top 10. In fact, they are a great producer for you with no involvement in the business. That's not a true top 10. They've got to help you develop that other talent. That 80%ers, they're good, but they need someone else to pull them and drag them. And he said that bottom 10, they do the bare minimum. Even when they're a natural talent, they do the bare minimum. They think that their talent or their knowledge is enough. And he said, I had a kid that was naturally very, very talented. And I started thinking about, excuse me, hairdressers that have all the natural ability, but they don't have the hustle. They don't have the work ethic. They don't have the energy. They don't have the attitude. They don't have the contagious personality that's necessary to be successful. They don't have that it. They're smart. They're talented, but they don't have anything that the team can rally around. He had a kid that he redshirted. Now, let me see if I'm getting this right. He redshirted a sophomore. And he said, very unusual to redshirt a sophomore once they played their freshman year. And he said, you sit down and I want you to watch this team because obviously you think you know better than everybody else. And I'm going to let you sit and watch what you're missing because of your attitude, your lazy ways, your ego, your obstinance. You're gonna watch. And then he met with the dad and the son going into the next year. And he said, what did you learn? I learned that you were right about me. I learned that I needed to, and then he became a 10%er. So he went from the bottom 10 to the top. He had they have an extra room at Ohio State. It's so funny when you start there, you're not allowed to wear your Ohio State jersey the right way. You have to wear it inside out until you earn to wear it right side. And in the beginning, you're not allowed to use the locker room until you earn it. You got to change in your car. He said, this is not a you got to Ohio State and you've arrived. You still have to earn your way. And so he has a culture that's tough, but look what they create. I love that. I would thrive under that kind of leadership. It scares the bejesus out of most people. They would think, what do you mean? I earned my way here. I was the top student at my high school. I've been all conference, all American high school, and now I go to Ohio State and this guy's making me change in the car. You could really lose your edge if you're not careful. He also said something very interesting. Some of his top 10%ers, there is a room that's always available to the athletes. This one boy would get up at 5 o'clock every day and be in the gym. He was a top 10%er. And Urban went up to him and said, you can't come in at 5 o'clock in the morning every day. mean, no one else is able to witness your 10%. You can't come in at 5 o'clock in the morning every day unless you're bringing someone in the 80s with you.
Wow.
And so that kid could go, but he had to bring someone else. So he had to go back and get one. And I'm enjoying his book a lot. We got to get back to, it's not leadership is a must. Leadership is everything. It's the accountability of what's expected. Even on these ideas we gave you today, don't let anyone excuse you as to why they can't be done. Not everyone is made for working in your salon. Maybe you've got people that won't present your dessert tray. You might have to get rid of them because it's who you are, no excuses. And maybe you need to redshirt some people. I'm not giving you new customers until you get your head right here. You know, there's some things that can be done. It's what needs to. I mean, there's people that don't need leadership to push their effort. They need the leadership to show them the plays. There's a difference. Leadership is responsible for the playbook and what the business is going to do. The employee is responsible for the effort. And if you don't have effort for people or you have excuses for people, that tells a story in itself. So I'm really enjoying it. I think you're going to love it too. I mean, look at just what I read yesterday briefly, because I had to sneak and peek at it. You understand why a program's good because of their values, and I love when we learn that when we were first with. If this is your value, if you want to be healthy, then what decisions do you need to do? You've got to exercise. You've got to eat well. Blah 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 blah. But if you say I want to be healthy and you eat Cheetos all day long, your values and your behaviors aren't matching.
Right.
Right?
Right.
What are you thinking about?
I just, as we're coming to the close of this, I'm thinking about the fact that we have 45 of these that we've already recorded, and they are named by topic. We've been doing this now for
It's our
what,
3.5 years.
3.5 years.
Yeah, this is our 4th year.
And so it remains out there at no charge to really for anyone that wants to. We're going to do our best from time to time to call attention to a past broadcast and suggest that you go back and re-listen to it. But everything that we do here at PSC
It's for you.
is about helping you to first of all realize that you're in business maybe for yourself, but you're not in business by yourself.
Ooh.
We're here with you. We're about helping you build your overall volume, your service volume, and your take-home volume, and your profitability in the salon. That's been the core value of PSC since 1983. So we're here. We want to support you. We want to continue to challenge you. We want to bring new thought to the table and help you to maybe get out of the space that any business can get in from time to time. We can all get flat. We can all get stale. We can all, I mean, it's amazing. It doesn't matter when I put a quote out there on social media, or even yesterday, I sent a quote on leadership to the leaders in our school group, and I'll always get something back that says, thanks, I really needed that today. I really needed that today. And so what if you weren't tapping into some of the resources that are available to you? There's probably something there that you need in your business today. And so
Go find the topic. They're all listed, and they're all, it's always dedicated to that topic that is listed.
So
any questions or comments come up?
We're good.
Good. We're done.
We're done.
We'll see you next month in August. Back to school.
Thanks so much.
Talk to you. Bye.
Have a great month.